the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation fired an intern because she was raped. And lastly, Planned Parenthood was caught giving advice to sex traffickers. This is A Better World, and I'm your host, Luis Acevedo. So yesterday, BuzzFeed published an article that covered an alleged rape that happened within the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. The accused rapist was an intern coordinator for the foundation. His name is Damian Jones. The victim is going by a pseudonym, and that is Jane Doe. She claims she was raped back in October 2015 when she was 19 years old while interning with the CBFC. At the time, she reported it to the police and several other people, including another Congress member, Representative Terry Swell, and the police were able to get a search warrant on Damian Jones's DNA, which they found on Jane's breast. However, she didn't pursue any legal actions until March 2018 when she was working for Representative Jackson Lee, at which time she told Lee's chief of staff about the incident since they were getting ready to hire Damian Jones, the alleged rapist. Now maybe she decided to press charges last year as opposed to back in 2015 because of the surge of popularity amongst the Me Too movement, and she had the added benefit of working for a woman in the Democratic Party, so she probably believed that this would help her out significantly to have a victorious and successful trial in her favor. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. After telling Lee's chief of staff, she was fired within a couple of weeks. And they told her it was because of budgeting issues, which may be true, but Jane Doe denies that to be the actual reason. She states during this time they were pressuring her, and by they I'm referring to Representative Jackson Lee and her chief of staff, to purchase a brand new car, being that she had just gotten into a car accident, Jane Doe, not too long ago. And Jane Doe believes that was the framework for her firing, to be able to chalk it up as budgeting issues. To me, it seems Representative Jackson Lee was trying to save the CBFC from a scandal, being that she's the chair of the board of the CBFC. It's just insane that we have been told to believe women for so long now, and yet a woman in the Democratic Party fired a woman for being raped allegedly. What's even more shocking is that she is the chair of this organization, and one of her staffers are being accused of this, and then they looked at hiring him 3 years after the fact. It's just crazy. And by the way, Representative Jackson Lee is an excellent judge of character. She's just magnificent. This is the same representative who had a staffer dock Republican private information. You may remember this happening late last year when a bunch of personal information was released of certain Republican Congress members. So, yeah, I mean, could you imagine if anybody on the right had a reputation of picking staffers like she does, what the media and the left would do? Especially since she fired a woman who was trying to pursue legal action on somebody who had allegedly raped her. I'll tell you what would happen to a Republican if they were in that position. They would have to resign, and then they'd be burned at the stake. They wouldn't be able to do anything again for the rest of their lives. But to be fair, we don't have enough evidence to make a sound judgment on this case. I'm sure we will soon be able to do that, since Jane Doe, the alleged victim in the case, has also put out a lawsuit against Representative Jackson Lee's firing, claiming it was retaliatory. So not only is she now seeking legal actions on Damian Jones, but she's seeking a lawsuit on Representative Jackson Lee. And one more thing I would like to add on this whole issue right here is that the accused rapist had no issue finding a job. Despite all the allegations lodged against him, he ended up working for the Beto O'Rourke Senate campaign. Although, they ended up firing him once they found out about his past. So they did the right thing. They definitely did. I just find it very hypocritical that nobody in the mainstream media, for one, is talking about this. Once again, had this been anybody on the right, this would be all over the place. We see what happens with Representative Stephen King, who says racist stuff such as, why is white nationalist and white supremacy bad terms? We all know why they're bad terms, because you're basically saying that you want one race over another race, which is the most egregious thing, well, one of the most egregious things you can say. And rightfully, he has been censured. He's been voted to be censured. Now, there have been Democrats who have not wanted to censure him and have it go to the ethics committee because they're afraid they'll have to start checking members in their own party for their anti-Semitic comments. This is running rampant within the Democratic Party, and that's hypocrisy. When I think of the Democratic Party, I think of Big Brother in 1984, George Orwell's book, when they list the 3 things. I don't remember exactly what they call them, but the ignorance is strength, slavery is freedom, and war is peace. All those are exactly what the Democratic Party does. I'm not saying the Republican Party is 100% innocent of doing that. However, it is extremely difficult for them to get away with anything negative, especially with the media favoring the left. That's just the truth. And going back to the women's rights and what's going on here with this rape case, I want to switch it over to something that people also see as equally as important, is up there with the Me Too movement, since in today's world we have set women's right at a pedestal. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not. I think it's great that we're talking about some of the sexual harassment that takes place and women getting the voice they deserve to speak out against that. I think it's an awesome thing. However, where I draw the line with the whole women's rights issue is when we are told abortion is inherently involved in women's rights. Now, I have spoken on this issue quite a bit lately, but this time it has to do with a new video that was released by Live Action, who is a pro-life organization. They had undercover journalists go into Planned Parenthood and tell them they had underage sex workers and wanted to know what to do if they became pregnant. Now, before I show you what the manager of Planned Parenthood told them after hearing what they had to say, I want to give everyone a reminder that you and I are funding this organization with our tax dollars because of women's rights. That's the only reason we're funding this. And since women's rights are at the top of the priority, we have to now put Planned Parenthood on a pedestal, and the people who are telling us to do these 2 things in particular is the same party that says we're going to fire a woman who tries to press charges on somebody working inside the CBFC and trying to save the face of that organization, especially since it's largely Democratic, if not solely Democratic. And then this is also the party that can spew out anti-Semitic remarks and face no repercussions for it. This is that same party. So they're telling us that Planned Parenthood is part of the women's rights. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video because it is very, very disturbing and really quite telling. So I'll go ahead and...
Some of them young, they're kind of like 15, 14.
Minors are always accepted without parental consent.
Okay.
The only thing that you do have to be careful is, if they are a minor, we are obligated, if we hear any certain information, to kind of report. 14 and under, we have to report.
That includes being 14.
Yeah, 14, once they get to 15, then there's a little bit more flavor. So as long as they just lie and say, oh, he's 15, 16, as long as they don't say 14, and as long as it's not too...
That's the manager of Planned Parenthood saying, as long as they lie that they're 15 or 16, they'll have no issues getting an abortion. Mind you, she's talking to pretend, in all actuality, but she doesn't know, sex traffickers, children sex traffickers.
Too much of an age gap now, we just kind of
What if they do say 14?
You never got this from me. Just to make all of our lives easier.
Okay.
They're 14 and under.
Yeah.
Just send them up there if they need them.
So the video just kind of lagged on me there, but you get the idea. They are actually helping them to find a way to keep their workers on the streets. And at the end of the video, he asked her, how long will it take for them to actually be able to be back to work, because we're losing money if they're not working? And she said minimum 2 weeks, and in the meantime you can have her be that extra side action that walks by to catches people's eyes. She's actually giving these sex traffickers of children advice on how to do this work, which is egregious, and nobody's talking about that. And for anyone that still supports Planned Parenthood after this video, I implore you to do some more deep research into the organization itself, and you'll find a lot of disturbing videos. For example, there are videos on YouTube that expose them for being a legitimate racist slaughterhouse. They have people calling in and, once again, undercover, just trying to see what Planned Parenthood will and won't do. So one of the callers said that they would like to give a donation for abortions, but specifically for black people because he doesn't like black people. And they agreed to it. They said, okay, we'll make sure your money goes to that. And yeah, I mean, there are so many videos that just expose them for what they are. And I guess the moral of the story is, if you line yourself up with the left, pretty much nothing can touch you. That's pretty much what I'm getting out of here. We have the rapist still able to get a job, and this woman, I haven't been able to find any evidence that she has been fired. Maybe I'm not looking hard enough. Maybe you know that she's been fired. If you do, please send me that information and let me know. I'd love to know. But from the looks of it, if you're lined up on the left, you get away with just about anything. You look at Bill Clinton, alleged rapist and sexual assaulter on numerous occasions, scot-free. Harvey Weinstein's another example because he's able to pay off the leftist politicians, more than likely because he has dirt on them and he's still not facing jail time or anything of that nature. But to shed some light on this dark story and on this dark situation as a whole, the first female senator of Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn, introduced a bill last week that would strip all federal funding to abortion providers like Planned Parenthood. Now, it's unlikely the bill will get passed, but at least we still have someone fighting for what's right, and it's a woman. That's extremely important to know, because the left will have you think that all women should believe abortions are their rights. All women should be pro-choice and not pro-life. That's the issue with the left. they try to make everybody fit into one category, one box. And if you're not in that box, you don't belong. You're the anomaly. We have to ostracize you and make sure you don't contaminate the conditioning that has already been done to a certain group of people. And if you start doing that, then we start calling you Nazis. Then we start calling you racist. Then we start calling you sexist or bigots or misogynist. The list goes on. I'm sure if you have an opinion that isn't lined up with the left, you may have been told that you have a racist point of view, or maybe that you are racist or a bigot at minimal. You know, I mean, these things are just disgusting. They're just character assassinations. And when we're discussing the future of our country and ultimately the future of the world, being that we're at the center of it, living in the United States, that's no secret. We should be able to actually have productive conversations without attacking somebody's character. We should attack their ideas. See if, maybe attack's not the best word, we should debate the ideas. See if they pass a stress test. How strong are the ideas that you have, and how much time have you put into solidifying them and providing sound logic? If you haven't done that, then why should we give your idea any credence, any support, any exposure? The only other way to get that through is by virtue signaling and saying it's what's morally right and not having to argue the facts. That's what's going on here with abortion. They don't argue any facts. All it is feelings. And this is ubiquitous throughout the whole Democratic platform. This isn't just one thing. As we've seen with the whole Me Too movement, as long as you're not going to hurt the Democratic Party, they don't care. Now, you can bring up the instance of Senator, he was a comedian at one time. His name's fleeing me right now. He was still in office when Neil Gorsuch was being nominated to the Supreme Court Justice. I'll probably remember his name after this episode. Anyway, he ended up resigning because of some alleged sexual assault cases towards him, and he was a Democrat. So, you know, you can throw out that instance, but then you have to look at everything else that the Democratic Party has ignored, like Keith Ellison, who I believe is the Attorney General in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. He has several sexual assault cases against him. You have Bill Clinton, which I've already mentioned. And the list goes on and on and on. So basically, if you're not on the left, you're going to be criticized. And that's so true. There's also another story out. It has nothing to do with sexual assault or anything, but it has to do with the left contaminating culture so much to the point where if you bring in a Trump banner on your school's patriotic theme day, then you are racist. There were a group of students in a Minnesota high school, if I'm not mistaken, who ended up dressing up in patriotic gear, which they made it seem as if that was a horrible thing that they did, the school anyway, regarding the students. And they ended up bringing a Trump 2020 Keep America Great banner into this basketball game with them. And the coach of the other team took it as a sign of racism because he has a team of inner city black kids, and he thought it to be extremely offensive. And he goes on Facebook, makes this long post about it, and then an investigation is taking place for the students who brought in the Trump flag, or banner rather, to the basketball game because he's calling them racist. See, once again, if you do anything to contaminate those who have already been conditioned, they will come at you with everything they got to discredit anything you believe. And the easiest way to discredit what you believe is to call you a racist and then have you provide evidence as to why you're not a racist, But in the end, none of that evidence will be good enough to actually prove you're not. So it's a lose-lose. The only way you could actually win that battle is to flip the table around on him and say, now prove to me that I am a racist. How is what I've done racist? So we'll see exactly what goes on in that high school. If they share any more news on it, it seems definitely like the anomaly, but what's not the anomaly is the treatment people receive for wearing anything that supports our president, which is really disgusting. It truly is. We shouldn't be acting that way. He's the president of the United States. Regardless if you like him or not, you should respect him or her. Whoever's in that office, you should show respect for, because they are representing the entire nation. And that is so deep, I don't believe most people understand how deep that goes within our identity as individuals, let alone as a nation. So that's what I have for the news for today. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we will see you on Monday, and have a great weekend.